That was intense.
It's one of those moments that almost bring you to tears. Like every
Yeah.
time you're like, oh
Seriously.
man, like
I can't sit up. I'm just in this, I'm crying, I'm shaking, and it's very stressful. I think it's going to be very hard for me to argue with anything that you said.
we are talking about the top 5 moments in Cosmere overall. And today, in next chapter, we are joined by Wera.
Hello, my name is Wera. I couldn't think of a fun channel name like next chapter, so my channel is just Wera. Hopefully it will be linked somewhere. And I talk about all sorts of Cosmere. Well, this is going to be my first Cosmere video, but I will be talking about more Cosmere stuff later on in the year as we approach the Stormlight 5 release date.
So definitely check out Wera's channel. It will be linked in the description of the video. But today we decided we're going to get together and we're going to say what are the best moments in the Cosmere. Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere. It's obviously a hot topic right now because we've got Dragonsteel Nexus coming up at the end of the year. And what we want to see is, can we devise a top 5 list of the best moments in the entire Cosmere? All together, we'll work on these, work on building this list. We have our ideas, and I know Wera has a lot of great ideas too of what those scenes might be. So let's dive into it.
Yeah, there will clearly be Cosmere spoilers, so you have been warned. There will be some major ones here, so be ready. But to start off, though, we have to discuss what makes a top 5 moment. What is it that composes that? What are our standards? So, Wera, what is it for you?
So when choosing mine, the thing that I had in mind was that there are different standards that we can apply to determining what is a top moment in a series. There are the objectively top moments, I think, where a scene is crafted very well from a world building, character, and plot point of view, and then it all is tied together, it is set up very well, or it pays off a huge moment, and so objectively it can be written very, very well. However, then we have the more subjective side, where maybe it's a scene that doesn't do world building and character and atmosphere and all those things, but it focuses on something in the plot that really, really hits home with you, and so you have a very emotional reaction. But then I think that just in different cultures, we value different emotions more than others. So for example, a very euphoric scene in fantasy will probably be considered better than a more, low stakes but very funny scene. And so then how do we compare those two? And that's kind of a conflict that I had when choosing my list. I decided to kind of vary it up. I definitely have a few moments on my list that are considered objectively very well written, but then again I have a few scenes ranked perhaps higher than other people would rank them because they struck a chord with me.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I like that. I think Jaden's going to fall on a different perspective than me, because for me, I fall way more on the subjective side. I want to find a moment that just hits home with me. I'm more on the cinematic side. Like sometimes it's a more powerful scene because it's emotional, but sometimes it's just a really cool scene, really well put together. I love it when all the pieces just fall together in the Cosmere Sanderland world is for a Sanderlanche. He just puts them together so well, crafts them together. I love seeing pieces come together. For me, that's what makes the biggest difference.
I think that there's the impact of like the first time you read it, how impactful it was, and how blown away are you. Like, do you put the book down because you're just like, that was the craziest thing I've ever seen or read? But you're right. I disagree a little bit in the sense that when I'm ranking something in general, I like to say, how much is this going to impact the book? How much is it like gonna be heart-wrenching on the emotions? What do the characters do with it? Like, you need to have some sort of scale so that you can accurately compare scenes, because when you're reading a book, and we've talked about this in rating books in general a lot, it's like the last 5 chapters tend to have a huge impact on your overall rating because it's just the recency bias or whatever it is. So whenever you read something recently, you're like, oh, that was the best book ever, whereas maybe a book you read 5 years ago is objectively better. So it's difficult, but the good news is between the 3 of us, we will determine the effective list of the top 5 Cosmere scenes, so fear not.
The correct list.
Yes, the
I want
correct
everyone
list.
to know this is the correct
The
list.
definitive, correct list of the Cosmere
Yeah.
moments.
And no one else is right. It is
No.
only our
Yeah.
list is the
No.
right list. Yes. Let's jump in and go with our first moment. So the very first moment, I'll let you read this one because you're a fan of this book.
I
and series.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
So this one is from Sunlit Man, and because Sunlit Man is such a good, fantastic secret project book that everyone should read, and no one disagrees with me.
And
on that.
everyone loves it. Everyone.
Yeah, every single
including
person.
Vera. She loves it.
But the scene itself, and Vera,
Yeah.
you have read it though, right?
Oh, yeah, I read it.
Okay. See,
It sounds like a mine, but
I can sense
did
the
read it,
excitement.
yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, so the moment that I have here is when Ox, who is his spren, he burns away his essence, his whole self, so that Nomad can retain his powers, technically of two different orders, and save his life. That is an emotional moment. It's also a powerful moment because it combines multiple different powers from the Stormlight series. It's just, it moves the plot along. It's great.
It's also a moment.
Cinematic, you love that.
Yeah, and it combines from other Cosmere books to come to a
Yep.
really cool crescendo, kind of hinting at other things that we don't quite understand yet in the Cosmere universe. So it reveals quite a bit at the same time.
So I would say that this scene has to be in our top 5 because, like you mentioned, all the connections, how cool it was, how impactful it was to the story, and obviously Sunlit Man needs to be represented in the top 5.
Clearly. So what are your thoughts, Vera?
I disagree.
Right off the bat.
I know.
So I know the title is Sunlit Man, but for me it was more the Sun Mid Man.
Brutal.
Love it.
It was a fine book, but it didn't really. I feel like Sanderson focused on having a lot of high stakes and plot stuff without focusing on the heart. And that being said, I think you did choose a good moment because I agree. That and one other scene in Sunlit Man I think were actually quite good.
What was the other scene?
I think Ox was a fantastic. The one where Sigzil talks with Hoyd and is like,
Oh, yeah, that's
dude,
good.
you literally were in the little camp while I was a slave and you could have
Yes.
saved me and you didn't because you thought that I would expose you. And
Yep.
I was your ward. You should have protected me. And I was like, you go, Sigzil. You tell us. And I liked it also because we saw Hoyd for the first time from a more antagonistic side. So that was very interesting for me conceptually. But going back to the Ox giving up his life force, I don't know,
Yeah, sure.
dying effectively. I didn't shed a tear, but it was there.
It was there.
It's a good moment, but
A tear
it's
of
a
close.
good
respect.
It
moment,
was
but I
close.
don't know if it.
I may be with you a little bit more on this one. I think it's a good moment. I don't know if it's quite a top 5 moment. So we'll see. Can you give us a better one? What's your first?
Okay, my first moment is okay. I can't say that one yet because you'll disagree.
Too good.
So my first moment is going to be the revelation in Oathbringer that the humans are actually the invaders of Roshar and not the Parshendi, which is what we were led to believe for the previous 2 books. So I think that thematically this moment is very, very interesting because if we think about it, we are siding on the side of the people that are oppressing the native people of Roshar, like we are. And, you know, historically, I feel like usually we come to these types of situations and it's very obvious that the invaders are, and that colonialism is bad. But then Sanderson is kind of, and so we're led to believe that, yeah, our heroes are being, you know, they're going to be oppressed by this invading army, blah, blah, blah. And it's built up this entire time, but there are things that still don't click in the world building. Like, for example, a lot of other reviewers that I really enjoy said that after books 1 and 2, they thought that the world building was very surface level and that they didn't understand why the religions popped up the way they did, what separates the different countries like Yakoved versus Alethkar and stuff like that. And after this realization in book 3, I think that an argument can be made that, well, these are very young, or maybe not very young, but they are younger than the Parshendi are to Roshar. And so that's why they all seem very similar in those first 2 books. And then it's only in book 3 that we kind of realize why. And it's also, and it also kind of highlights the difference between the Alethi and the Parshendi, because the Parshendi are totally, totally different to the humans. And I don't know, it also kind of messed with my brain, so.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty huge reveal for all the things you're saying, right? Is that like, okay, who you thought were the original people there, the good guys and stuff, are like, oh wow, like they came in and took over the Parshendi's land, and they were, didn't they say in the book, I'm starting to forget here, that the humans were originally considered the first Voidbringers? Am I right on that?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And like the whole time you're being like, yeah, they came. Yeah, and they came with destruction and all these things, and you're like, oh my gosh, like it's totally flipped. But at the same time, it gives you this internal crisis, because you're like, okay, you are seeing there is more good on the human side than there is on the Parshendi side, because of all the Voidbringers who are coming in and stuff. But then you're starting to see the Venli side, who's like breaking away and saying like, hey, we can't embrace the odium side of things. We've got to come in more towards the honor side. And so you're starting to see them become Radiance as well, which is amazing. And so like I guess I shouldn't have phrased it that way. It's just saying like the Parshendi like are all bad and like the humans are good. Like it's not that way, but it's just interesting to see like that like dynamic between the two, because Odium seems so tied with the Parshendi and his actions and the way he can control them, where he doesn't quite have that hold on the humans.
It's an interesting pivot point, because it is like the whole series, you're just the Voidbringers are the worst. You know, like they're the evil, they're coming, it's like gonna make everything harder for everyone. They're gonna kill a bunch of people, but you're like, and then guess what? The Voidbringers were the humans originally. Like that was a huge turn for the series, I think. So it's a good moment to bring up for sure. I would agree.
So is it better than Ox burning himself away to save Nomad?
No.
No?
I don't think so.
I think it's pretty close. What? I know, Vera, what are you thinking here?
So I'm just thinking, let's think of, Marty at the start said that Jaden, you're a bit more, you want to know the details of an argument and not just, it's cinematic. So I'm going to give you an argument, I hope, at least.
Okay.
So when we talk about Sunlit Man, Ox burning himself up is very insular. So it's just for that book. It's just relevant for that book. Whereas this moment in Oathbringer was set up over the previous 2 books, and it has not only thematic implications inside the book, but it, like Marty said, it inspires conflict also within the reader. And when I kind of think about all the foreshadowing and all the, the epigraphs, and Yasna doing so much research into who were the Voidbringers, and you kind of, they kind of get led astray into thinking, maybe it's the Parshmen who haven't transformed yet. But then that doesn't really click, and then you have this reveal, and it has shocking implications for the rest of the series. There's one more thing I wanted to say, but I'm forgetting what I wanted to say. Oh yes, and also it kind of reframes, I think, the Parshendi and makes them more interesting going into Rhythm of War, which is the Parshendi book, if you consider it Parshendi book based off of who the flashback characters are.
I like the argument.
And then there's the entire idea as well of the Parshendi's god Honor forsook them, right? I think Odium defeated Honor, and then Odium, or maybe started corrupting the Parshendi first. It's been, I read it on release day, so I might not remember everything perfectly.
Yeah.
Oh, no, this is Oathbringer. No. The flashbacks are Rhythm of War. I don't remember. It's either in Oathbringer or Rhythm of War that it said that Honor basically forsook the Parshendi. And that's not a very honorable thing to do. So it also makes you question honor, I think. And so, I don't know, I just feel like it's such a layered moment.
Yep.
And it has such far-reaching implications that, like, I don't think you can make an argument that a character in, like, a 300, 400 page book dying is a better moment.
I think you're right. It's got some deep layers to it. And it also hints at things that we still don't understand of what's happened there. And so this moment could get bigger as we get into the fifth book.
I respect the fact that the impact is significantly larger. Cinematography, though, like cinematic impact, significantly lower. But I can see the argument, and I appreciate the logical way that it goes about. But yes, I think for that reason, I can accept it being slightly higher.
Okay.
Than, the Sunlit Man scene. Although the cinematic value of the Sunlit Man scene, I will retain, is stronger.
Yeah, I think it is a big reveal, though, a big moment to
it
find.
Is,
and I think you could see that being just at the end of an episode in a TV show, and you're just like, oh, like what?
It'd be more like an end of the season.
Yeah. Well, hopefully not the end of the season, because that's like right in the middle of the book, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm just saying as far as impact and like cliffhangers.
Oh yeah, and I get what you're saying. Okay, our next one that we have to bring to the table is from the book Mistborn. It is the release of Ruin at the end of the Well of Ascension, where he is released, and the whole time you're thinking that Vin is doing the right thing. She's going to let the power go, because that's what every good person in history has ever done, is decide that power corrupts and is evil, and you have to let it go, which it just makes sense. But then she lets it go, and then you hear Ruin say in the background, "I'm free," and he goes off, and you're like, what just happened? Like, one of the craziest twists. Honestly, that was I'd read some other Sanderson books before. I'd read the Steelheart series, but I hadn't done Mistborn. Was my first of the Cosmere. So I read Mistborn, read that book, and that was the first massive twist that I had read from him in the whole Cosmere series, and I was just absolutely blown away by that. I'm like, I can't believe that. Whenever someone reads that book, that is the first thing that I ask him about. What did you think about that moment? Were you not just blown away?
It's super unexpected. I agree.
Yeah. So, any other things you have to ask?
I think that the fact that you don't expect it the whole way, and then like the impact of it changing the landscape of the entire world, I think is valuable for sure.
And the whole idea that you're discovering that they're fighting a god, they're like, wow, this guy just seems undefeatable. And he's literally even changing history to be written in the right direction of where he needs things to go to impact him. You're like, how do you beat this thing? You just feel Sanderson is just excellent at getting you into moments of despair where you're like, I have absolutely no idea what you would do about this. But he finds an amazing way to correct it, and that makes sense with little hints that he's had throughout the whole books, all of his books, on how to fix it. And I just love that. So that is one of our top moments that I think
that's a good one.
Very impactful.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's a very good one. I don't know, because that moment and the revelation moment, I think, are very similar, because they both shake up our fundamental understanding of what the series was and what it was aiming to be, kind of. I don't know. I think personally, I prefer the Oathbringer moment more, but I'm willing to concede this one, just because it's at the end of a book, and I feel like ending a book on such a cliffhanger, is insane. And what you said about it also supports the idea of, a good hero releases power, relinquishes power. But in this case, it's like, no, you have to take the power, or else you release Ruin. And so it plays on that stereotype. So I'll concede this one, but I think they're very toe-to-toe.
I would rank this one higher than the Parshendi reveal moment for me. Again, like I said, when I think about the Cosmere as a whole, this is one of the moments that I look back on and think, wow, like impactful moment, the moment that I'm most excited for new readers to read about. That is one of the biggest moments for me.
I believe that, yeah.
Yeah. So
especially in that whole series.
Yeah, for real. Okay, next one for you, Vera.
Okay, next one. Okay, I'm gonna throw out a lowball, but I already know it's not gonna be
That's okay.
one of the top two.
Fun to reminisce.
So, I really liked Warbreaker. And for me, the scene where the statues in the city come to life was super impactful because I feel like it was set up so well throughout the entire
great scene.
novel.
That's there's cinema there.
The description of the city and the statues and hearing about these ancient scholars, and you don't quite know what's up with them, and the secret army by this one scholar, and then you find out that it's a basher, and you find out that it was his ex-girlfriend, ex-wife, who made Nightblood, and that he created this army for the time in need, and and then it comes to life, and any other writer would have made it seem like a deus ex machina, but Sanderson set it up so well. And so I just thought it was a very euphoric and amazing moment. But I don't think it touches the top two. I think it beats out the Ox moment, personally, but I'm excited to hear your counter arguments.
I know. I want to hear from Jaden because Jaden liked this book a lot more than I did. I thought this book was fine, and the ending wasn't near as impactful for me as it was. It sounds like for you and Jaden. So I'm very curious to hear what Jaden has to say.
I did really like this moment. I thought it was pretty cool. I thought maybe in the confines of the story, it was especially impactful because it was one of those things where you just don't see everything's starting to fall apart. How are they going to resolve this? They don't have the power that they need to, especially because things are so urgent. They have the armies are heading toward her homeland. What are you going to do? And then it becomes yep, I've had this prepared this whole time. I was ready for this, and I am that person from history. It was cool. It was a cool moment. I think Vasher is cool in general.
Yeah, what was the password, the passphrase that he had, the security phrase I think that he said for those ones?
Oh, to wake them? Oh,
yeah,
man.
It was something about his his own sin, he was upset with all the war that he had caused. I can't remember what it was. It was cool. It went well with it. So
if someone in the comment section knows it, or Vera, if you know it, we'll find it.
It's been 4 years for me. I don't know it.
Well, the comment section will come to our aid, I'm sure. So thanks everyone who's going to comment and let us know what that security phrase was.
For me, still the Mistborn moment has got to be bigger. I love that moment.
I think I'm probably with you.
Yeah. But this moment better than the Oathbringer moment? Yes, Vera.
So I think for me right now it's Mistborn, Oathbringer, Warbreaker moment, Ox.
Because we're really hating on the Sunlit
I would
Man
actually
over here.
agree with Vera in this moment. I think she's right. I think that's a good order for this right now.
Sunlit Man will not be last by the end of this video. I'm telling you what.
It probably won't even be on the top 5, so it won't be last. So just kidding.
It's going to get an honorable mention, at least.
Okay, our next scene is from Tress of the Emerald Sea, when you are learning about the spores and how dangerous they are and everything, but then the two ships get locked when the sea completely stops, and she has to do her walk across the spores to get to the other ship. And as she's going that way, you're seeing people get shot at, and the blood goes into the spores, and they shoot up with the trees and plants and everything, and she's trying to make it there and not have sweat come off of her. And that whole scene is probably one of the scenes that I look forward to most in any kind of movie if they make it. Honestly, this movie would be one of the few that I'd be okay with them doing animated, but that's a side topic. But I think it's just very cinematic, very cool, very impactful, and really helps you understand the world. Also, the intensity of the moment is just fantastic for me. So, any extra thoughts there, Jaden?
I'm curious to hear
what Vera thinks,
Jaden's
though.
thoughts.
Oh.
I know. Well, if you want to know Jaden's initial thoughts, first he crossed it out 5 seconds ago. He's like, I don't think it's in there. I'm like, I think it's a great scene.
I think it's a cool scene. I think we learn a lot
agree.
about, but I don't even think it's the coolest scene in that book. So
Really?
I can't see it as being a top 5 Cosmere scene.
What scene is better in that book?
You're not going to tell me that the reveal at the end with Hoyd and the Even the dragon scene's better. That might even be like third or
What?
fourth. The dragon scene is way cool.
I agree 100% with Jaden.
There you go.
Wow.
It's
Okay.
a good scene, and it's fun, but I think it's definitely probably maybe third or fourth.
You're
in that
just
book.
upset because I wanted your Ox scene
I
on
am.
the top 5.
But I think the comment section will agree with us on here, and Vera agrees with me, so
Yeah, that's gotta be right.
that's all we need.
Well,
It's a 2 out of 3 majority.
Yeah, what are your thoughts, Vera?
I feel like Jaden's gonna get his wish of Ox not being last, because for me this is last.
Really? Why? So what is it about this scene that doesn't hit?
Like, it's a good scene. I liked it. I thought it was very, fun and very cinematic, as you say. But like, she's just not that girl. She's okay, but she's not great. When I think of great scenes, I don't think that one. I didn't even think you would nominate this one, to be honest.
Not a fan of Tress?
Yeah, so I liked Tress overall more than Sunlit Man. I gave it 4 stars. And Sunlit Man, I gave 3 stars, but there's no comparison. I didn't think this would be a scene that would even make it onto your nomination list. So yeah, Ox.
I thought it was a great scene.
It's a good. You loved Tress, though.
I love that book. I think it's a great book.
Well, with that, do you want to take the next one, Vera?
My next moment is my number 2 moment in all of the Cosmere.
Okay.
And it's one that I think was very crazy for me. I don't know if it's gonna be one that's crazy for you, but for me it's the earring removal scene from Mistborn. So personally, I love Marsh, and Marsh went through a lot of very tough things in his life. He was controlled by Ruin for the majority of the Hero of Ages. He was also the brother that was looked down upon when compared to Kelsier. Kelsier even got Marsh's girl in the end, so, I'm really team Marsh here. And the moment so that's one part of it. And then the other part of it is that literally from the first chapters, we have Vin talking to Ruin through the earring, but we don't know that because she's talking to her older brother, right? Older brother, and the entire time we don't really question it until the very end when Ruin gets distracted. Marsh has that one window of being able to save her, and instead of bashing her head in, he bashes the hemorrhagic spike out. And I was so blindsided by that, and I thought it was, it took my breath away. I think about it constantly.
It really is the moment where you realize that Sanderson has been planning things from the very first book in the series. And he put stuff throughout the whole time. And you're like, wow, you can see it. Why does the mist not come to help her in some times, but other times it does? And it just seems so obvious that wow, why didn't I realize the connection between the earring and that? For me, I would agree with you. This is a massive moment. I think it is one of my top moments as well. Just because it's so well, like I said, so well connected for everything. It's probably the definition of a Sanderlanche moment.
Yeah.
Where just everything just comes together.
I really like it. I'm going to join that train as well. I think it's a good call out. It's a really good one.
How does it compare to the other ones we've got here? So Tress's Sporewalk number 1.
This guy, he's going to keep trying.
Just try it.
I do think it's probably for me even more so than it's going to be right there on par with Releasing Ruin to me.
Yeah.
It's in the same book, it's kind of in the same category, and it has a similar impact.
Yeah. For me, I kind of like the release of Ruin a little bit better.
It's not in the same book. It's not in the same book.
Sorry, same series. Same Mistborn trilogy.
It's book 3 is the earring, book 2 is the release of Ruin.
Sorry.
Yeah, come on, Jaden. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I think the release of Ruin is a little bit better, in my opinion. But I think they're both good.
So my thoughts is personally, I love the earring removal scene, but I can agree that objectively, I think it's worse than the release of Ruin scene, and so I'll give you the release of Ruin scene, but then I'll take earring removal over Oathbringer.
Yep, I would agree with that.
I actually like that.
Cool.
It's interesting that we have 2 Mistborn Era 1 series scenes right next to each other in this list.
I know, right? But here we go. Let's get into some Stormlight ones.
We're in Stormlight now. Our next one is Kaladin, and it's when he fights 4 Shardbearers in the ring, and essentially protects Adolin and his younger brother Renarin, and then asks to fight Amaram right after for his boon. That whole scene, probably one of my favorite scenes in any book, and I would fight that cause.
Why is that? Why is it your favorite,
Because
Jaden?
it's so cool. One of the things that they build up is like this concept of honor and all those things, and Kaladin feels like he's been slighted for his whole life for a lot of different reasons, especially by this type of society. And then he goes in and he's like, for honor, he is like, no one else will save and protect Adolin, who's clearly going to be killed in this fight. And they're like intending to kill him, to get back at Dalinar. And Dalinar's like, is there no honor among you? He calls out to everyone and says, will anyone get in there and help protect my son? And Kaladin's like, it's going to be me.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You feel good.
It's an amazing moment. Again, another moment of classic Sanderson despair, right? You're like, okay, first of all, he brings out 3, or did he bring out, I always think it's 3, but it is 4 Shardbearers every single time. And he's like, how in the world do you win a battle like this? They're going to lose everything. He put all of his shards on the line for the whole family.
Yeah.
And then Kaladin comes in and ruins it all at the end, and like it was just. And you're also wondering the whole time, like, wow, is Kaladin gonna show everyone he's a Radiant at this moment?
It was wild.
It is a whole lot of things culminating together, which is.
I'm
very
a big
cool.
fan.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very hard for me to argue with anything that you said. I don't know. Is it better than the release of Ruin? I don't know. I feel like it is. I don't know. I'm so conflicted. What do you guys think? What would the ranking be for you right now?
Oh, I think it is the best moment so far. I think the release of Ruin's good, but this scene of Adolin and Kaladin fighting the 4 Shardbearers is just so. It brings in so many different threads at the same time of the story, and the suspense of it all is just really well put together, orchestrated.
I'm on that same page. Yeah. It's crazy. It's one of my favorite scenes of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the best duel I've ever read. So, personally, for me, earring removal tops it. Yeah. However, I will concede this because I think it's a fantastic scene. So I can live with this being number 1.
Yeah,
nice. There we go.
We'll see. I have one that I think is better than that one. Jaden doesn't think so.
Well, that'll be a fun one. We'll end with that one.
I know. Let's see what do you have to say. What's your next one?
This is one of the best scenes I have ever read in my life. To illustrate the state that I was in when I was reading this, because I really want you and the audience to understand. Sometimes, I don't know if this is healthy, it's probably not healthy, but sometimes when I read a book, I go into this mode of I'm lying down and I start shaking. And I start having heart palpitations. I start sweating, I start crying, my teeth start chattering, and I'm not able to, my body is so clenched up that I can't walk, I can't sit up. I'm just in this, I'm crying, I'm shaking, and it's very stressful when it actually is happening, but it's very physical for me. And not many books have got me to that state, and I'm sure this is not very healthy, so I'm not saying you should be in this state when reading books, but the scene in, when reading the last segment of Oathbringer, I read those last 200, 300 pages in like that. I just couldn't stop reading. And the scene specifically that I'm thinking about that really sent me was Dalinar fighting and saying, you cannot have my pain.
Oh, yeah.
What's the most important step a man can take? Well, it's the next one. And the fact that he's like, I did all those things, and that's my burden to live with. Oh my god. I mean,
that's powerful.
It's a great scene.
That is very powerful.
I can't even. For me, it's perfect. You have the entire element of the world building where you have the unmade that has been manipulating him, and you have and it all ends with him capturing the thrill in the gem, right, which we learn in book 4 is like a big part of how Voidspren work as well.
Yeah.
And not only that, but for Dalinar, like, see, when I like something, it's hard for me to talk about it. But emotionally, for Dalinar, that scene is just It's so powerful. It's so powerful.
Well, and
plot-wise, it's all tied in. Like, it's so high stakes because if we lose Dalinar, we lose everything. And so I think it's a perfect scene. It is set up in the previous 2 books of, we see Dalinar as this paragon of honor and standing against other people who would tell him to just give in and say that he's crazy and that these visions are made up or whatever. But he's like, no, I will be honorable. And then in book 2, we have Kaladin, and his entire arc is learning to trust Dalinar because he's so honorable. And then book 3, the entire time you're learning that he was awful, that he murdered his wife, that he was just he was awful.
He was awful.
And then in this one moment, everything can be lost. Everything can be lost. And he says, "You cannot have my pain."
Very cool.
Dang.
Yeah,
I rest my case.
It is a great case, and I think you made it powerfully too. Honestly,
I'm convinced.
I loved that scene, and it all culminates in the moment where he's like, "I am unity," and comes together and brings together the 3 different realms as well too. Just a very, very cool scene. Being able to overcome that to a certain extent too. I do love that scene. That is one of the coolest scenes in
well, you see so much growth from him as a person going through his entire arc across 3 books to that point. And you see like how much pain he was in to have like asked the Night Watcher to take that away, and he lived without that pain. He was able to get on without it and become more of an honorable person. But then it all comes back in such a flood that he's like, oh, I can't live with this. But he does. He is more powerful than that. And then he accepts that, he takes it on, and he uses that to be really who he is. It's like, this is who I am. The pain is mine. The struggle is mine. It's just, it is
a very cool scene. That is one that I would be willing to put in our number 1 spot for right now.
I would agree. I think the explanation alone was pretty powerful.
I love it. I love it. There you go.
Well played using that one last.
I know, right? Or did you have one more? You have one more you're sharing.
No, this one.
No, we were
going to do this one too?
Yeah, we were going to do that one before that.
Okay. I have another Dalinar one then that we can make. So the moment where he trades his shard blade for all of the Bridgemen is powerful to me, because especially that setting that scene where they had just protected him, they saved his life and all of his as many soldiers as they could. They went back into the battle fray to say this is wrong. Like, they should not be left to die. Like, we can do something about this. And they go in and they just do amazing stuff, save the day, force that bridge over there so that they can escape. It's like such a huge moment for the plot, obviously, because if Dalinar hadn't survived, that would have been a big deal. But then after that, he goes in and says, you know what, like, a life is priceless, right? What is a life worth? It's priceless. And like, what is a shard blade worth? It's also priceless. So he's trading one priceless sword for 3,000 priceless lives, priceless souls, like that.
He's like, I think cool. I got a good deal, is what he said.
Yeah, I think I got a pretty good deal. That was intense.
It's one of those moments that almost bring you to tears. Like every time you're like, oh seriously, man, like good old Dalinar.
You recognize how good of a person he is, and like how much he is trying to be an honorable person.
And then comparing it to the Oathbringer scene, you realize how good of a person he's become from what he was before. So pretty cool.
The complexity of characters that Sanderson did able to write is fantastic to me. So
yeah, what are your thoughts?
I agree. I think it's a fantastic scene. For me personally, compared to the other scenes that we've talked about, the other scenes are just so amazing that they trump this one for me. Like, I'm not saying it's not a good scene. Like, obviously, it's a fantastic scene, and I think it's so good, especially in the context of the scene that I just brought up. Like, you really see Dalinar's journey, and Sanderson is like, I don't know how he wrote this character, but
Yeah.
I'm just astounded by the work that he put in. But I think for me, it doesn't match the other ones. So for me, I would say it is below the earring.
Okay. Yeah, I could take it there.
That.
I could take it there. Yeah. I mean that Oathbringer scene is still like number 1 so far, I think. So let's go into the other ones, and then we'll give a final rating at the end, and we'll see if we can place
I think
them
we might
in
just
order.
have.
So I've got one
yours
more.
left.
I want to hear if you've got one more, right? I think you've got maybe one more.
No, that was
wow,
the
it's just
last
me.
one I was
I
saying.
thought first.
Go for it.
Okay,
No, we
I
had
miscounted on who
You're good.
went first. Okay, so this last one, Jaden didn't want to include it, but I think it is my favorite moment of the entire Cosmere, Stormlight Archive, of course, as well. But this is the moment when Kaladin saves Lirin after Lirin is thrown off of the tower. This is the moment where Kaladin has been dealing with his depression, dealing with all the sadness and like despair, but then it all culminates in his father not accepting him and all these things, and then Lirin is thrown off the top of the tower, and Kaladin decides that he's going to jump off of the tower to go save him. And in this moment, he accepts the final words, which says, "I accept that there will be those that I cannot protect." And in that moment, you were wondering, oh man, he's probably not going to be able to do it. But he speaks the words, he gets the explosion of light, and he's able to save him. I think that moment is just such an incredible moment. It is actually a moment that Sanderson, it was one of the very first Sanderson moments that are scenes that he had written years and years before the book.
Wow.
It was the scene he was looking forward to writing most. And so it was interesting to hear him say that. And he's like, I've been waiting to write that scene for years. And I can see why. I think the scene is fantastic, emotional, and brings together all of Kaladin's moments. It feels like, to me, it is Kaladin's equivalent moment of the Dalinar moment for Oathbringer, where he kind of comes to terms with how he is feeling and the struggles that he has been through.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's great.
I want to hear Jaden's argument as to why he didn't
I
want
think
to
it's
include
powerful,
it.
but I think that the amount of things that Kaladin goes through and the types of scenes, I feel like it's one of those. I just wouldn't put it as like the most powerful.
It is.
I feel like he's got quite a few transformational events that happen in his story arc. I just don't think that is the most powerful one.
For me, when I think about the Stormlight Archive, that is one of the first moments I think about.
Wow.
Yeah. And especially when I think of Rhythm of War, I'm like, that was one of the culminating moments.
Yeah.
Besides some other crazy twists and turns of events that we won't get into, but
I would honestly, if I had to put that somewhere, and I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. If I had to put that, I would probably put that just below Trading the Blade for the Bridge Runners.
oof, I would put it above that, but
I know. Vera, what do you think?
I was thinking the same thing as Jaden.
What?
See, my problem with Rhythm of War, yeah, that was I was writing it out on my phone right now, actually, what we had so far, and that's exactly where I would put it. I think that Rhythm of War, it was way too long. Also, like, no offense to Kaladin, he's great, but we didn't need that much of him. Like, I know that what he was going through is very difficult and stuff, but I didn't need so much of Kaladin when we had so much of him in book 1, so much of him in book 2. Finally, in book 3, we have a little bit of a reprieve. And then in book 4, it's once again Kaladin, being sad, his dad being awful to him being sad some more. Oh no, he lost his powers. Oh no, Teft died. Well, okay, Teft dying, way better than this scene, by the way. But I was just so over it. And maybe it's, so I actually got the what's it called? The newsletter where Sanderson said that this sequence from chapters 115 to 118, somewhere around there anyway. I've been planning since the beginning of Stormlight. This is one of the first scenes that I envisioned. And so as I was getting there, I was like, oh man, I'm getting to the scene that Sanderson wrote about in this newsletter. And maybe it's because I was so hyped up for it that it kind of disappointed me. But I don't know, I feel like Rhythm of War lacked the heart that the other books had for me. But Yeah, so I would agree with Jaden. Just I'd put it under Tower.
Oh, yeah. For me, it's just, I know it's an unpopular opinion. I don't know why so many people disliked Rhythm of War. I loved Rhythm of War. The only parts I did not enjoy were all the, I think it's Venli, the Parshendi scenes. They were just a little bit boring for me. But the whole, like, deal with Moash was, like, amazing to me. Like, how he is, like, trying to corrupt Kaladin. Like, the whole deal with, we're finally starting to see more about the tower. We're learning more about Dalinar's powers. And then all of that, like, coming to that moment at the end. And, of course, with it was Taft, right, who died at the end of that? That scene in my head goes with that scene where he jumps off the tower because it sends Kaladin to just a way deeper moment of despair. I just think it was cool. It was really, really cool. So I like that book a lot. It is.
I'm excited to reread it. We have a lot of reading to do before Wind and Truth.
So what is our final rating for this group? I disagree with some of them, but I'll give.
There have been compromises in this conversation for sure.
So number one we have so far is Dalinar's moment with "You cannot have my pain." Okay, so number two would be Kaladin's fights 4 shard bearers, then asks to fight Amaram. Number 3 would be the release of Ruin. Number 4 is the earring, and number 5 is Dalinar trades the blade for the bridge runners. And I do feel better about that list now. I was gonna say like I don't know how I feel about that the second one there, but yeah, I think I'm okay with that. Those 5. I'll concede. Although I think the Kaladin one probably should be number 1 or number 2 on that list, but the commenters are gonna have to back me up with them.
We'll see if they do. But I like this list. I think it's interesting that Stormlight and Mistborn became so powerful on the list. But it's interesting to see.
They're the
how
2
it shakes
flagship
out.
series in the Cosmere right now. I think they're fantastic.
They are. They absolutely are. Sunlit Men will have to be in the next list.
Well, thanks for listening to us. Again, go check out Wera. She's got her channel. She's great.
Linked in the description so you can find it.
Yes, she's much more popular than we. She does lots of books and videos on those books, lots of fun viral videos, and so check those out. People love them. Grateful to have you, and we'll see you in the next chapter.
See ya.